What's happening, everybody? Welcome into the Daily Betslip for Tuesday. Ben Heisler with Reed Wallach. Good to have you all here with us. Fun show ahead. We've got, of course, the game of the night between the Celtics and the Miami Heat. Eastern Conference basketball, Reed, and we've got a total on the board of 203.5. It's kind of like we just transported ourselves right back to the 1990s.
Yeah, no, pumped that we got to the conference finals. I'm more invested in the Western Conference Finals. That's not till tomorrow and tomorrow's Daily Bet Slip, but my Mavs future. I know, Ben, you were thinking about the Mavs when they were like way out at like 20-1. I bet them before the playoffs. You were looking during the playoffs. Are you in on them or no?
Yeah, that was one of those perfect case scenarios where I talk about making a bet that I think is really interesting and then forgetting about it and then not holding on to it and then now just kicking myself directly in the
Oh, so
face.
you didn't bet it. So you
I
don't
do
have
not I do not have no, it was a long shot
great idea.
prediction at 20 to
Yeah.
1 that I did not ultimately end up purchasing, and now I'm mad.
Yeah, well, I'm in on it. I made it through the weekend with the Mavs. I had them before the playoffs, and I thought they were. I remember we were talking about it, and I thought it wasn't a like. I was like maybe, probably not worth it. Like I kind of wrote it off, but yeah. So I'm more interested in the West, but Eastern Conference, yeah, it looks like it's the 1980s out there. Obviously, we saw Bucks Celtics as physical as could be, and then Game 7, the Bucks kind of gave out. Now the Bucks or the Celtics, they get an even more physical challenge in the Miami Heat, who have been, resting after getting past the Sixers. So I'm pumped. Draft lottery tonight, baseball, just another day in paradise. That is the sports betting world. So I'm excited and always pumped to talk with you about the slate.
Always a lot of fun. We'll get into our daily Twitter and YouTube poll, which you guys can check out right here if you're watching the show on Twitter. Come on over and join us on the YouTube side. Just go to YouTube, search BetSided, and you can weigh in on our poll of the night. Remember, at the end of the show, whatever has the most votes, Reed and I will go ahead and place a small wager on siding with the community. It is game one between the Heat and the Celtics. Heat, of course, 2-point favorites on the board against Boston. So we'll dive into those. Also get some of your favorite bets of the night coming up in Best Bets. We'll also take a look at the latest NBA futures. Like you said, Rady, I know that you're a little bit more invested on the Western Conference side. I think there's a little bit of sneaky value available on the Eastern side of the board as well. Also want to mention too, that if you are watching the show on Twitter, chances are you're watching and following us at BetSided. And if you have not signed up for the PGA Championship $500 giveaway, I cannot think of an easier way to put yourself in the running for $500. It is about as foolproof as you can possibly get. All you have to do, it's right at the top, twitter.com/BetSided. You follow us, you retweet the tweet, and then you reply with your pick to win the PGA Championship, and then use the hashtag contest entry. If you end up being selected, that's $500 in a Visa gift card. So literally, it's the easiest thing you could possibly do to put yourself in contention to try and win $500 ahead of Thursday's PGA Championship. So make sure you guys check that out. Really quickly, Reed, before we dive into Bad Beat of the Day, I have to know, with all that invested on the Dallas side, did you hedge in Game 7 and take Phoenix?
No.
Really?
Well, I'm not typically a man who hedges. That just kind of I think hedging is like each situation is its own thing, and I was too far away, and the odds weren't there for me to hedge on Phoenix. I also kind of like Dallas in the game anyway, and thought they were. I didn't bet on Dallas or something. I didn't double down, but I was like, I think Dallas has a pretty good shot. I thought both. I kind of like both road teams in the Game 7, so I stuck it out. And yeah, I'm typically not I like to hold out as long as humanly possible to hedge if I can. I don't really believe in it, so but again, that's just me. That's my kind of risk tolerance. Other people like to hedge it like the first time they can. I'm also not going to hedge just yet. We're going to get into it, but I'm not going to hedge right now, at least the Western Conference Finals either. I'm going to ride this out with Luka and the fellows.
Right now, it's looking like an ideal play, and perhaps they match up a little bit better than most anticipate against Golden State. We'll dive into that when we come into our futures discussion in about 20 minutes or so from now here on the program today. But let's dive in. Start off with the bad beat of the night. It's not technically a bad beat from Monday night. I suppose if you had to find a specific, the Washington Nationals having 3 errors basically all on one play for the over to hit against the Marlins certainly factors in. But I know that you suffered just a crippling bad beat on Sunday night, even though with the Dallas Mavericks ended up winning that game.
Yeah, so I had a really good betting weekend. I was feeling good, and I took every game 7 under. I kind of do that blind anyway. In hockey and basketball specifically, I just think no matter what it is, like these games get tight, the defenses, the nerves, all that stuff, it picks up. The refs usually let you play. So I bet there were 7 game 7s across the board, 5 hockey, 2 NBA. Bet all 7. Going great for me. I'm having a grand old time watching all these like rock fights. And, the Suns game going on. It's 57-27.5, 84. I bet the open at 210. It closed like 204.5. This thing, it was easy does it. Like, I am chilling on this under. I'm like, wow, the Suns can't score. This is great. They're going to embarrass. Like, they're going to quit also. Like, it's going to be just nothing. So they score like 60 points or like 58 points in the third quarter. I'm like, okay, like, it's going to die in the last 3 minutes. They're going to pull everyone, blah, 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 whatever. So all of a sudden, like, I think it was like Elfrid Payton's in the game. They're running around like as if it's like a pickup basketball game. Like, there's fouls. They're chucking up threes. They're going in. What's his name? Wainwright is just hurling the ball into the hoop. Like, it was ridiculous. I couldn't believe it. And then, so I'm saying there like, oh my God, like this game is going to go over. I'm watching the last few minutes. Sprinting, track meet, like all the scrubs that are in are just like, oh, I'm getting mine right now. Like, you're the Phoenix Suns. You are the number 1 seed. You just lost by like 30 plus. Like, you just got embarrassed on your own. Like, just run out the clock. What are you doing? Someone's going to get hurt. This is ridiculous. I'm screaming at the TV, just like, slow down, slow down, slow down. They scored. I got the box score up right here. They scored 10 points in the last 45 seconds. This is where like it really hurts because I thought that this total was ready-made. I thought it was done. Yeah. So I have 3 points to spare on 210. The Suns have the ball. It's like their last possession. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to shoot a 3. They're going to shoot a 3. I'm miserable. Just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Obviously, who was it? Aaron Holiday hurls up a 3 in. I go, oh my God, 10 seconds left. So I'm like, all right, like I turn away from the TV. I look at my roommates, I'm like, well, that sucked. Like, that was really annoying because it's 71 points in the fourth quarter. That doesn't happen in any game. This game. And then they go, oh no, oh no, oh no. I look back. Somehow they just like stole the ball with 10 seconds left. I go, oh, here we go. Because I'm pushing now. Another 3 at the buzzer. Bink in 2:13. And it's even worse because they were up 30 at half, right? And maybe you won't think it's as bad, but this bothered me. I go, oh, I think Dallas, like, they're gonna like win by more. They're gonna win by like 50. So I took Dallas second half on the money line plus 535. And that hit. And I wasn't even happy about that because I was stewing over.
I don't blame you.
I was so mad about the one at minus 110 that I lost, this under that I thought was hit, that I didn't even think about like, wow, Reed, you just hit you made much more money doing that. Like, but I couldn't even get over how pissed I was that this stupid total went over. And that's my bad beat. Sorry, I had to like get that out. That's been, sitting in my brain for a few days there.
How do you feel now that it's off your chest? You released it into the stratosphere that is social media and YouTube, and like, do you feel collectively a little bit better? Or is that one just going to sting for a while?
It's still going to sting, but like, it definitely helps that everyone else like feels me. I definitely think now, like looking back on it, like that's silly. Like that was a silly way to lose a bet. And it just goes into the, the lineage of other bets. And, they just I remember my bad beats more than like my crazy wins. Like the backdoor,
that's like
I only remember like I just hit a plus 535 bet. I could care less. I only care about like the bet that like was a really good bet that should have won easy, and I had to like sweat out and I got all pissed about.
Yeah, you're like a coach. Like, winning is more relief than it is excitement, and losing is just pure pain.
Yeah, like the team's still running suicides after the game with a 4 fourth quarter, even though we won by 20. Like, yeah, I don't care.
Well, I'm sorry for that bad beat. I'm glad.
But it was a great betting weekend besides that. That was just one that like that ate away.
And
it was a good
here it is.
I had like a crazy number too.
Still on tugging at your heartstrings just a little bit. We always talk about some of our crazier bad beats of the night every day on the show to kick things off. But we also get things going around this time by talking about our best bets of the night. So I have 3. I've spread it out. across Major League Baseball. I got one for the WNBA, 2-0 on WNBA plays over the course of Daily Betslip. So I'm hoping that streak continues. And then actually my first Stanley Cup playoff bet that I'm making on the Daily Betslip. So
some hockey.
Yeah, a little bit of excitement there. I know that you also have a play in Major League Baseball and then one ahead of tomorrow's NBA slate that we'll get into in just a second. But we always ask you guys on Twitter, at BetSided. Reed, of course, is at Reed Wallach, and I'm at Benny Heiss. What are some of the bets that you're looking to make tonight? So I know that we got a few available for us. So let's go ahead and pop the first one up on the screen for tonight. We can go ahead and take a look. So we got, this is from, oh boy, it's a little bit difficult for me to read this one. Here we go. Casey Halp. Blues money line, and also Heat -1.5. So go ahead and start things off. Where do you like it on the NBA side? I know that you and I both follow that a little bit more than the NHL.
Yeah. So the Heat are in, and we'll get into it for game of the night, but at least like on paper, they are in as advantageous of a spot as you could ask for after the Celtics just went to game 7. Of course, they have one day in between, a totally new opponent that they haven't scouted. They obviously have to travel to Miami. So tough spot dating back to 1989, teams off of a game 7 win. So the following series, so like the spot that the Celtics are in tonight, 32-49 straight up. So that's a sub 40 win percentage right there. So, obviously the -1.5, you want to put into play. It's basic, 1 point. Yes, obviously I'm not saying an outright win, but you know what I'm saying here. So history is definitely on the Heat side tonight. I don't want to give away where we stand in terms of that, but that is definitely, in my opinion, like actionable betting info. And as for the Blues, I don't bet a lot of hockey, but I'm like enamored with playoff hockey. I think it's awesome. I'm going to be watching the games tonight. And I was like asking around to like my buddies who know a little bit more hockey than I do. Like, do the Blues have a chance? Like, I know the Avalanche are this wagon, but they also like very like offensive centric team. And
they've bowed out early, I believe, in the second round the last several years too.
And I see the Blues I saw they were like around plus, north of plus 300. So I was asking around, like, do the Blues have like a fighting chance, or is this just kind of pissing money away? So Casey, I'm leaning with you. I'm not going to bet it myself, but like my antenna's up towards like maybe the Blues are a little live in this series at like a huge number. But that's in Colorado, right?
Yes, and I also like taking some of these road teams in game 1, especially in hockey, just because I think you have that best opportunity to catch the favorite at home a bit off guard. Both teams are still trying to figure themselves out a little bit. And you have a very high total in this game. Like it's pushing -130 on over 6.5. Like that's fairly high. There's another game that we'll talk to in a little bit that also has a super high total on the board tonight. But I've seen a little bit of reports that some early money has come in on St. Louis. And okay. I certainly think it's a bit of a sharp play to jump on board with the Blues. I mean, their offense in the first round against Minnesota was terrific. And they actually led the entire NHL in goals scored above average this year. So not a bad play, especially if you think it's going to be back and forth. My only concern is that if it ends up being close, overtime on the road can be a bit difficult, but you can certainly steal one and get it at a nice discount there. All right. So that's the first play on the board. What do we have for our second Twitter submission for today? Got at Greg Schwartz 56. The Heat to win by 10+. Celtics have to be exhausted for a road game 1 to a rested team with the hashtag culture. So it's interesting because, we'll get to this in a second, but the Celtics, Reed, are actually the favorites to win the series, but they're underdogs in game 1 tonight. There's definitely a factor of rest at play, but Heat still don't have Kyle Lowry, and they still have not really gotten their offense going. And I'm not sure if they will. It's a bit of a pain for Miami to score, and you're talking about a total tonight around 203.5. So do you look at Miami saying they can go ahead and blow out Boston, likely gas from a very physical series?
10+ is kind of, that's asking for a lot because Miami plays at such a slow pace. I have it written down somewhere on my notes. they're playing 3 possessions slower than Boston has in this postseason. So I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but when the pace goes down anyway in the postseason, you know what I mean? Like they're playing at 93 possessions per game, which is incredibly slow. That's way slower than anything in the regular season. I believe it was the 3rd slowest thus far in the postseason. So trying to get an offense that isn't really going to put up big numbers anyway to blow out a team. I don't know if it's going to get to 10 plus, but like the Heat winning by like comfortably by like maybe like 3 or 4 possessions, like maybe in that 6 to 8 range. That seems, I think, like a likely outcome. Getting like a complete blowout, and I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but I think you're really banking on the Celtics kind of running out of gas at the end of the game, and kind of the game gets away from them. Maybe like you get like Max Strus hits like back-to-back threes, and Miami kind of goes on like that tidal wave run to close it out, and Boston kind of throws it in and just kind of mark it up to tired from the last series. So 10 plus feels a little steep, but I think Heat winning by margin is a relatively reasonable outcome.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly fair as well. And if anything, if it is a close game in the first half, I might look to go ahead and just jump on the Miami Heat in the second half as well, knowing that the rest is probably more likely at that point to factor in. Final one from our Twitter submissions of the night. Let's see what we got. From Parker Lane at P Lane 5, Marcus Smart under 2.5 made 3-pointers. I mean, Boston at times in that series against Milwaukee, and I was worried too, Reed, that they were going to really mess them up with some of their length. Boston did a really nice job shooting from outside. In fact, they had a record-setting performance, I believe, in Game 2 of that series. And Milwaukee, I think, had their worst shooting performance in that game as well. But do you look at somebody like Smart to go ahead and continue to chuck up a bunch of threes and possibly stay under? Or do you think that it's just going to be too much defense, especially with how Miami guards around the perimeter, that it's just not a good opportunity for him to even come close to it?
No, I kind of like this one, actually. Smart went, I think he went 4 for 4 in Game 6 from 3 on the road, which like that is even more stark that he did it outside the TD Garden. But he has this
he actually went 6 for 6. Or no, I'm sorry. He went I was looking at 3 points made and then free throws made. No, he actually went.
I think he went 4 for 4 in the first half, and he missed a few in the second.
He went 1 for 6 against Milwaukee, the final game, but then had 5 3-pointers made at Milwaukee in Game 6 and then 3. So he's hit it in 2 of his last 3 games, but hadn't really come close in the 4 games before that. So you're banking on the idea that Smart's going to go back and just continue to shoot lights out, but that was only really a 2-game sample. I think this holds up. I think he has this like mild foot sprain. I imagine it's like nothing. He's like technically a game time decision. I'd be absolutely shocked if he didn't play. Just going on the road, and the Heat defense is different than Milwaukee's. The Heat are going to switch a lot. We're going to talk about this in the game of the night feature, but I kind of like this Marcus Smart under 2.5 made threes with role players going on the road. And I don't know, maybe there's just this regression from Boston. They hit how many threes in Game 7? They hit like 20 plus threes. Maybe they come back to earth against a new opponent that they haven't had time to really scout all as much and get prepared for. So I like this look at a Smart under made threes. And the other thing too is that Milwaukee, even though their offensive numbers weren't anywhere near levels that we expected out of them in the postseason, they also are more likely to push pace than Miami. So Boston's going to be in a lot more half-court sets. You're going to see more isolation. I just don't think they're going to be pushing in transition as much to shoot threes. And part of the reason they did that was to try and avoid a lot of the length that Milwaukee has. So I think avoiding a lot of these 3-point props for Boston is probably the way to go.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to give away too much on this Heat Boston write-up, or us talking about it, but Milwaukee shut off the paint for Boston in the last round, with their size, like Brook Lopez, Giannis around the paint. Like Boston couldn't get a lot going downhill. Miami's not the opposite, but Miami shuts off the perimeter a lot because they switch everything along the perimeter. They're able to stay out and stick and run people off the line. So I think that Boston isn't going to get as many like 3-point looks as they did against Milwaukee, which that was kind of the difference in how they got past the Bucks.
No doubt. All right. So those are our Twitter bets. Appreciate all those submissions. A lot of them, both Reed and I really like today. But let's dive into our favorite best bets of the night. You and I both have a Major League Baseball pick, so we'll trade going back and forth. I have one on the WNBA tonight between the Mercury and the Aces. Also have a play on a total in the NHL. And you got a couple other NBA bets that we should consider as well. So I'll kick things off on the Major League Baseball side. Keegan Thompson is the opener for the Chicago Cubs tonight. They are at home against the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's a perfect night to pitch at Wrigley Field because the wind's blowing in. It's in the mid 50s. You don't have to worry about some of that humidity come Chicago summertime. And I like the over 3.5 strikeouts for Keegan Thompson tonight. It's been a nice little bright spot for the Cubs in an otherwise down season. Really, really good spin rate on his fastball. 83rd percentile, according to MLB StatCast. The strikeout rate is okay. It's around 7.5 per 9 innings. But again, this is somebody that's coming in more so as an opener, but he's also hit that prop 4 out of 7 times this year. And the Pirates strike out the 9th most times in Major League Baseball. Reed, as you know, they were just no hit on Sunday, even though they got the win. It's not a Pirates offense that is showing a lot of signs of life. And I think Thompson, especially having ideal scenario and ideal pitching conditions to work with, I think it's a good spot for him. I know he's had a little bit of inconsistencies his last couple games, but he's shown that he can at least get to that number fairly consistently. So I like the over. Only 3.5 strikeouts for him to have to climb tonight. What about you on the Major League side?
Yeah, put in the 2-0 undefeated record on the line. I'm going to go with the Angels team total over 4.5. Even money at WinBet right now. And this is kind of a fade of Taylor Hearn. And I like the Angels in the game, but Reed Detmers, my namesake, coming off the no-hitter. I don't really want to get involved with that. I think that the best look here is the team total over. The Angels crush against lefties, top 5 in on-base percentage. Taylor Hearn, he has an ERA north of 5. His expected ERA is closer to 6. He could strike a lot of batters out, but when he can't strike anyone out, he's getting absolutely crushed. Guys like Mike Trout are going to have a field day tonight. He's hitting 370 against lefties this season. I know it's only 30 some odd games, only 40 plate appearances, but that's still a crazy mark for an MVP like player. So I like the Angels. And also if this game becomes a bullpen game, balls flying out of Globe Life Park in Arlington, I think this might be actually a high scoring affair. So give me the Angels team total over 4.5 runs.
Yeah. Angels right now 3rd in wins above replacement in total offenses here over at Fangraphs. They still, they do strike out a bit, which kind of plays into the hands. But again, like you leave pitches up to this team, they're going to get hit and they're going to get destroyed. Yep. So yeah, only 4 runs to have to climb. I like that play quite a bit.
3-0. Let's go.
All right. So speaking of 3-0, you're putting your undefeated record on the line for Major League Baseball on the Daily Betslip. I'm going to put my 2-0 WNBA record on the line. I also wrote about this over at BetSided along with our guy Donovan Smoot in our top WNBA picks and predictions article. You can find that over at BetSided for tonight. Fun game between the Phoenix Mercury and the Las Vegas Aces with the highest total on the board at 170 at -110. And I'm going with it. I like the over quite a bit. Initially, you see a super high number and you think to yourself, all right, Aces are an 8-point favorite. Natural inclination there is if you think it's going to be a blowout, you lean towards the under. But now that I really see it, both these teams rank 1st and 2nd in the league in the following categories. Not just first and then another team is 4th, 5th, right? They are both neck and neck, 1st and 2nd in all these different offensive categories. Points per scoring attempt, 2-point percentage, 3-point percentage, and effective field goal percentage. And then on the defensive side, neither of these teams have been particularly good at making stops. They rank 10th in opponent points per 100 possessions. So this just feels like an opportunity where both these teams aren't going to stop each other and they're going to take quality shots and you're going to just let them play. So even though the Aces are an 8-point favorite, they're just going to trade possessions and get plenty of opportunities on each side. So to me, 170 doesn't feel like it's enough when both of these teams are consistently getting anywhere in that 85 to 95 point category. I love the over in this game tonight.
I literally couldn't imagine taking the under in this game. Why would you? This game is going to be a track meet. 100%. I'm totally with you on this over.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. And then let me give you a quick NHL play for tonight. I wrote an article at BetSided a little bit earlier today about a pretty interesting trend happening in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The trend has been overs hitting in the first round at about a 63% clip. And over the last 10 days, overs in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs have hit just under 70% of the time. This does not correlate, Reed, with Stanley Cup playoffs over the past 35 years. Since 1987, when they changed the format to a best of 7, there's only been 6 seasons in the postseason where the first round actually saw scoring increase from the regular season. You've also talked in sports books, I mentioned this in the piece, have basically indicated that they need to start making adjustments to not just their projections for the game, but for their live model as well for in-game scoring, because we've seen 29 goals with the goalie pulled in a lot of these games as well. So one way that I think you're going to be able to see it is a game that I think everybody's already just projecting to go over anyway, and that's the high-scoring Florida Panthers hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning. I like the under 6.5, and you can get it at plus money at 105. This is also a team in Tampa Bay that stopped a very impressive Toronto Maple Leafs team, ended up winning the final 2 games to advance in that series. There's a ton of really good defense just a really smart defensive team that Tampa is able to be able to execute. And I saw that in the final 2 games of that series against the Maple Leafs. So I like the fact that, especially going to a 7-game series, Florida's going to be rested. They're going to want to push the puck up and down the ice. Tampa Bay is going to want to try and slow things down a little bit, because they know that if they try to go back and forth with Florida, it is going to be a track meet. And that's not the type of style that they want to play. So I see this being, like a 3-2 game without having to worry about a pulled goalie by the end of it.
Yeah, contrarian for sure. I mean, again, I'm not like a hockey maven, but, watching, especially the first round, it's not the Panthers. They love to go, go, go. The Lightning are a great defensive team. And I think that, I never hate when someone, there's some reasoning back and maybe like a contrarian play like this. And I like getting plus money also.
No doubt. All right. So those are my 3 best bets of the night. What about for you? I know you got one on the NBA side, not for tonight, but for tomorrow night. Who do you like?
Yeah, I got plays on the Boston game we'll talk about in a few minutes. We're talking about contrarian plays like the Lightning Panther. This is like a square as could be. Luka Doncic over 33.5 points in game 1 tomorrow night. Warriors Mavericks. We talk about teams coming in, no game 7 adjustment, no time to really adjust for the new series, while the other team, like the Warriors in this case, they have some time to prep and stuff. But the Warriors defense really concerns me in this series completely, and in game 1 especially. This is not your father's Klay Thompson. He's not a lockdown defender anymore. Jordan Poole is a bad defender. Steph Curry is an admirable defender, we'll call him that. But Luka Doncic is going to have his way with all of those. Like, he's going to find those switches. Like, even, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins are going to try and find themselves on them. But I think Luka's going to roll in this one. Earlier this season, he only scored 26 and 25 in a pair of games. But in the past 2 games, closer to the end of the season, the Mavericks both won. 34 points in 36 minutes, 41 in 40 minutes. Luka's averaging 31.5 points per game in this series, in this postseason. He kind of found that 3-point shot after he struggled with it. And I think those are going to be looks. The Warriors don't generate turnovers at all. So, like, the Mavericks are going to get possessions at least. They're going to get shots. And who's taking all the shots? Luka Doncic. So I think he's going to get over this mark. This is it seems like a lot, but I think Luka's going to end up getting over this mark. He's going to flirt with 35 again. Maybe there's no adjustment ready for Dallas and they kind of lose this one, similar to how we were talking. Maybe Boston kind of lets go of the rope, but you don't need it. There's no game plan for Luka Doncic. Hey, Luka, go out and play. There's no defense to stop him. And there's definitely no, with no Gary Payton stuff, there's no one slowing down Luka. So I think Luka's going over. It's square. I don't care. Square. I don't care. That runs.
I mean, you think about the first couple of games with Morant and the amount of points that he put up against Golden State. Like, we had been talking about the entire time on how do you slow down Morant. Golden State seemed like one of those teams that was perfectly equipped to do so. They were the number 2, number 3 defensive rated team in the NBA. entering the postseason, elite level defensive play. And Morant just went right by them. Doncic has the height, he has the size, he has a little bit more of ability to kick out when he needs to and facilitate with the rest of his team. I just don't know right now how you stop that dude, especially given the fact that he is in full on alpha mode, taking over games. And especially against Golden State, he's going to want to have to do that again. So I love that play. I think especially it's going to move as we get closer to game time. So you're going to want to jump on that. If you like the over, I would recommend doing so sooner rather than later. So we'll get into the game of the night between the Celtics and the Heat coming up in about 7-8 minutes or so from now. But I do want to get things going with a look at the latest NBA futures. There's some very intriguing numbers on the board between the final four teams that are available when it comes to the latest future prices over at WinBet Sportsbook. So just to set the scene, you have Golden State right now, the favorite to win the NBA Finals at plus 130. They're then followed by the Boston Celtics at plus 180. Miami, pretty decisive underdog here at plus 400. And then Dallas comes in at plus 650. If you're looking for specific series prices on who's going to win the East, who's going to win the West, you have Boston at minus 175 at WinBet, the Miami Heat are plus 145. And then Golden State minus 210 to win the West, and Dallas comes in at plus 170. So as we reset the futures market with 4 teams left to go, I know that you are already on Dallas, but still given their price point at plus 650 relative to Golden State at plus 130, which of those two Western Conference teams most intrigues you as far as their futures price goes?
Yeah, and this is something you could project out and calculate the odds on if Dallas, there's projected series price out there. So you could kind of math this out and maybe see if there's value. I'm obviously in on Dallas, so I'm good for now, but I would not bet the Warriors to win the finals at what number was it? It
was plus 130.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Maybe mathematically there's an edge there, but just watching this team, they do not look like a championship team in my opinion. And I don't necessarily think any of these teams are super great or anything. I think they're all 4 very good teams. I think the margin is very thin, but I like Dallas to beat the Warriors. And if the Warriors were to get past Dallas, I like either Boston or Miami to beat the Warriors. I think that the Warriors' depth is really becoming a concern. With Otto Porter has a foot issue. It seems like he's going to be okay, but those things flare up very quickly. Andrew Iguodala missed the entire last series with an injury. Gary Payton they said he's going to be reevaluated in a few weeks. I would be shocked if he came back from elbow surgery. I think the Warriors' depth and their lackadaisical offense with a ton of turnovers, they don't generate turnovers themselves. I think that their best lineup features a center and a big man in Draymond Green, we'll call him, who doesn't want to shoot. He averaged 3 field goal attempts per game in the last series. That's unacceptable. You need to be a threat out there. And their defense, like I said, Klay Thompson is not your father's Klay Thompson. This is a different Klay Thompson. He's looked good on offense, but his defense isn't there. Poole is still figuring out on defense. Curry can be found. I think Luka Doncic is going to have a field day in this series. And if Draymond's not going to be a threat to score, all of a sudden Dallas could leave out potentially minus players, whether it's Maxi Kleber and he could spread you out the other end, or it's Davis Bertans or Dwight Powell. He really couldn't play against Phoenix. Maybe he could find a resurgence to help bang down low. So I really think there's a lot of concern for the Warriors. I would not make that. I know odds-wise they need to be the title favorite, but I personally think if I were to say who I think the most likely champion is, it's probably Boston. So I guess there's value there, but I don't think Boston has a cakewalk either with Miami. I think Miami matches up really well with Boston too. So if you want to take a shot, I would try and do some math and see if there's any edges to be had on projected series prices, but I would definitely not go near the Warriors at these numbers. They hyper concerning. And I was concerned about them going into the Memphis series. I thought they were very overrated after Denver because Denver was outmatched. I don't think the Warriors are as elite as people are making them out to be.
I agree with you. And again, part of the reason that I like the play is that Dallas has that physicality that can mess with Golden State a little bit. And we thought Golden State was going to be a little bit more physical in their earlier series. Turns out they really didn't need to be, especially after Morant went down. But before I dive into the Eastern Conference side of things, is there a concern for you that Dallas given the last few series for them, that maybe mileage could play a role in the Western Conference in advancing.
Eh,
6 games against Utah, 7 in the series against the Suns. Like Golden State hasn't had to worry about a lot of that.
yeah, I'm not, because I think Dallas, the way they play defensively, where they're switch all, I think it's a little bit more plug and play where they can navigate. And again, the Warriors, like, did that Memphis series after Morant went down really make you think, like, wow, that team, look out for those Warriors? Like, what? Like, they're -2 something to beat the Mavs. Like, they don't deserve that price, in my opinion. I think the Mavs, if anything, this could be more of a springboard effect. Like, I think you can look at it both ways, right? Like, are the Mavs going to be fatigued? Maybe, but like, also you just beat the number 1 seed by a bajillion on their home floor in game 7. So like, maybe that's a springboard. And like, at the very least, that this team, like, they mean business, like they're going to show up and give it to you. Whereas the Warriors, I know they won by like double digits in game 6. That was like a very unimpressive double-digit win. That game was tied with like 6 minutes left. They basically lost by 50 on the road in game 5, and they hardly won in game 4. So maybe Memphis is a bad matchup, but that's without John Morant. They're going to give that to you. Now you have Luka Doncic coming in, who is arguably like, we're talking like top 5 matchup nightmares just ever. Or not ever like right, like in the league. Sorry, that one was hyperbole. But John Morant's a much easier cover than Luka Doncic. So
yes,
I think there's some serious concern for the Warriors after how they closed out that last series. A championship team puts Memphis away. I get Memphis has a lot of pride and all that, but like, you're a serious title contender, you put them away.
No
Look
doubt.
at what Miami did to Philly on the road in game 6. They put them away. They left it. They left, no doubt. They said, we're not doing game 7. We want an extra day of rest. We want Kyle Lowry to get healthy. We want all this stuff. We want to get this done today. So that's at least how I see it.
I think you can go ahead and jump on both of these Dallas prices if you haven't jumped on earlier. Plus 170 to win the series, plus 650 to win the finals. If you want to hedge a little bit later on, if you're not feeling as secure, you certainly have the ability to do so. But this is not going to be a cakewalk for Golden State by any stretch. And yes, maybe Dallas is one of those Western Conference teams we've seen the last couple of years with the Nuggets getting to the Western Conference Finals. I think Portland was in it a few years ago that might have surprised a lot of traditional NBA prognosticators. This is a different Dallas team. And what's remarkable too is and I heard Amin El Hassan talking about this on Le Batard and Friends. The idea of them getting rid of a second star in Kristaps Porzingis, who when they acquired him was still sort of in that realm of like, this is a guy that you build a team around, to then place other community players and role players around Luka to then have the offense run directly through him. Most teams don't operate that way. Instead, they're trying to acquire as many superstars as they can, not get rid of them. And again, Porzingis doesn't necessarily fit that mold, but it's pretty interesting to watch the roster construction of a team like Dallas right now that is antithetical to how you see most teams in the league starting to build. And I think that aspect of it is really, really interesting.
And it's not, I know a lot of people are comparing Luka to like James Harden Rockets. And this is, I won't go on a James Harden tangent, I promise. But it feels a little bit different. It does. Because, there's more like secondary creators like Jalen Brunson. We finally saw Spencer Dinwiddie break out. He was kind of having a rough series. So again, I think that Dallas could really give Golden State some trouble with their ability to switch and Luka's ability to take over a game. Like, I really do. And I think the Warriors' turnover problems and lack of turnover creation is really going to play a factor, considering Dallas, they play very slow. They're going to try and get Luka going downhill. Like, he's going to be able to get that. Is Golden State going to be able to match him on the other end? I think, maybe they lose game 1 because of that game 7 turnaround. But I'll be looking to be on Dallas in game 2. And, maybe I'll even add to my Dallas to win the West future. At this point, I'm not hedging. I kind of like it. Maybe later in the series.
All right. Perfectly reasonable take and certainly a well thought one. I do like that play quite a bit. Let me tell you a part of the reason why I feel like there is an opportunity for maybe both of these underdogs to meet in the NBA Finals. Miami at their current odds against Boston just feels like a massive inflation to a Boston team that, granted, has taken out a couple of surprises along the way, and then being able to go out and dominate Milwaukee, take out the defending champions the way they did in Game 7, having to come back in that series after letting one get away in Game 5. It's impressive, and I think it's impressive in the minds of a lot of public bettors right now that see Boston and see the type of numbers that they put up since January 1st when they were hovering around 500 to become an absolutely elite level team in so many different statistical categories and advanced metrics. Like, Boston was by far and away the top defensive rated team throughout the course of the regular season. But I mean, Miami was right there with them. They were really close. It was 106.2 to 108.4 in the regular season. Side by side, Boston in defensive rating ranked first, Miami ranked fourth. Offensive rating in the regular season, Miami ranked 11th, Boston ranked 9th. Effective shooting percentage, Miami ranked 5th, the Celtics ranked 9th. These two teams are closer than I think the odds makers have let us believe. And I think also a large part of it is who did Miami really knock out along the way? Very straightforward matchup as the 1 seed to kick things off. And then, it was the Sixers. Like, the narrative just basically wrote itself. Mm-hmm. But they have playoff experience compared to this Boston team. And again, earlier rounds, like, they got to play Milwaukee without Chris Middleton. Who knows what that series would have looked like after that matchup. They did take out Brooklyn in 4, but that's still a team with a head coach that hadn't had much playoff experience to that point in Steve Nash. Erik Spoelstra, in theory, should have a decisive advantage around Ime Udoka. And that's not taking away from the type of coach that Udoka has been. He's been remarkable. And the turnaround from this team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, has helped shape their identity. But in the Milwaukee series, there were too many moments where they hit highs that were way outside of their traditional range, right? Milwaukee just kind of played right into their strength, and they made a lot of shots, and Milwaukee missed a lot of shots. I think there's going to be more adjustments made by Spoelstra in this series than any of those two other coaches combined. And even though Boston may have a slight upper hand when it comes to a few of these different advanced analytics that you can find on NBA.com/stats, I think the experience of Miami, the defensive presence being neck and neck, and then ultimately the adjustments from Erik Spoelstra are going to be enough to propel Miami at a nice discount into the NBA Finals again.
Yeah, all excellent points. I don't think there's that much separating these two teams. And Miami has home court. I think that Boston's probably a little bit better because their offense could probably propel them through a few games. I don't have a bet on the series like before. I lean Miami though, just because I think the number's a little out there. But like, again, I think this Boston team is being a little overrated. I thought they were overrated going to the Milwaukee series. Milwaukee just couldn't overcome the Chris Middleton injury. People talk about how Milwaukee stole Game 3. I disagree. They led the entire game. I get they went down with a minute left, but I just kind of disagree. People who like to write the Boston narrative also seem to forget Al Horford scored a playoff career high to help them erase a double-digit deficit in Game 4 when they were on the ropes to go down 3-1. And then they talk about Game 5, which Milwaukee rightfully stole. But, that Nets series, I watched obviously every second of it. Easy to say Boston swept that series. It was, I believe, the closest sweep in NBA history. They went on a crazy buzzer beater in Game 1. What if the Nets get a stop on their last play? Is that like where's the perception now? They were down 17 at home in Game 2. Then the wheels kind of fell off for the Nets. So I feel like you could write any narrative you want, and you could have the supporting. You could look at it through any lens. I agree with you. I think Miami's being a little undervalued. If you are betting Boston, and I'll segue it into our game of the night, I would wait until after Game 1 because I think Boston is in a terrible spot, which I've kind of hinted at this entire show. I think Boston's in a really tricky spot. I think if you want to wait, or if you want to bet Boston, I would wait until after tonight because you'll probably get close to a pick on price, if not better.
I agree. I am going to reach out to the good folks over at WinBet and see if they'll give us a price on Heat Mavericks to play in the NBA Finals, considering that we both like those teams as underdogs to move on. Wonder what when they might offer for that. But if they do, you'll find out about it right here. Yes, you'll find out about it.
Heisler special.
Yes, please. Oh, if they call it the Benny Heist special, Benny Heist bet. Oh, that I've made it, my friend. You get a prop named after you. That's what you strive for. That's the goods. Speaking of goods, game of the night between Boston and Miami. I know we've touched on it throughout the show, but let's really take it as an opportunity to dive in ahead of game one. I mentioned it at the beginning of the show, but for those just joining us, Miami a 2-point favorite at home. Right now at WinBet, they're minus 116. You can get Boston at +2 at even money. If you want Boston as a money line underdog, they're at plus 120. Miami at minus 140, and the total has remained the same, 203.5. I know that for your best bet, you're focused actually on a side and on a total. I'm looking more in the prop market. So go ahead and kick things off. Tell me who you like and where you're going with this one tonight.
Yeah, I like the Heat. If my info while we were kind of like teasing and talking about the game wasn't kind of clear, I like Miami quite a bit here. I mean, listen, history speaks for itself. Just it sounds so simple and narrative-y, but like Boston off this physical series, you beat the champs, Giannis, all that stuff. 32-49 since 1989. Teams off of a game 7. 1 day rest. The Heat have had a few extra days to prepare for this. To me, this seems like Miami. We were talking about that 10+ bet. I kind of see it like this game might be tight through 3 quarters, and Miami kind of just pulls away off the home crowd. I'm trying to pull it up as we're talking, but the Heat role players shoot significantly better at home than on the road. I think that's something to keep an eye on as the series changes location over the next few weeks. But again, I think that Miami, maybe you're having to pay a little bit of a tax here considering they are underdogs in the series, but I'm just taking this game by game in the series. I like Miami a lot. Boston's not going to get a ton of open looks. They took like 53 threes in game 7. Milwaukee's defense is built to allow threes. That's why I never was really that high on Milwaukee's defense. Miami's defense, a little bit different because they switch. Obviously, Bam Adebayo, he's going to be on the down low, but they could switch 1 to 5. I really like Miami's defense in this one. They play at a slow tempo. They may not be able to win big, but I think they win this one going away. I think Jimmy Butler is going to be well rested and the Heat get off to a 1-0 lead. And, also up there is the under. I did play the under at I got like a 205, a 204. I still like 203.5. You said, Ben, it's getting a little dicey, but again, I think you're going to see a regression on the road from the Celtics shooters. The Heat aren't trying to put up 105, 110 points. They're trying to win, just get into 100. I think this is going to be physical. I think it's going to look a lot like the Boston series, a lot like the Milwaukee series, but there's less offensive firepower on Miami, and that might ultimately keep them from winning the series. But I think these games are going to be absolute rock fights. So give me the Heat winning, like, let's call it 97-89. That's low. Sheesh. It's low, but give me 97-89.
97-89 works. It may not be the most
I think Boston, like, you could be looking at like a really bad 3-point shooting night, like 20% from 3.
Kind of like what happened to Milwaukee against them.
I think they come out. I think not punt this game because they don't need it, and you never want to go down 1-0. But I think there's a lot of factors going against Boston in this one.
I agree. If I had to take a side or a total in this game, I would lean with you on Miami -2. I think it's the right play. Again, it's going to I see it being close for most of the game with Miami having an opportunity, just being the more well-rested team with making some halftime adjustments. I think Boston can hang around for a little bit, but ultimately Miami moves away late in the game, pulls away from Boston, especially if some of those 3-point shots don't go down. I'm going to go with the prop. And I like the over on Jimmy Butler, 5.5 assists. And I want to shout out Sal Vetri, who's a DFS analyst, betting analyst over on Twitter. You can follow him at Sal Vetri DFS because this information is really, really good. And I was already leaning on Butler, but I just want to share a couple of things that he found. So he's averaged just under this number per night in the playoffs at 5.4. But he's actually, as far as potential assists per game, he's measured it out that it comes into closer to 10.5. His assists per game go up by about 16.3% when Kyle Lowry does not play. Lowry is out.
Makes sense. Like the logic, like that, like a pretty, A plus B equals C there, right? Like
exactly.
Butler's a point guard.
Yeah,
goes up
it's a natural correlation here.
Mm-hmm.
And when Lowry is out, he's averaged 6 assists per game. He also points out that he passes the most on Miami over the course of a game, just under 43 passes made per game. So getting the opportunity again to lead the team in passes, to have the numbers correlate well when Kyle Lowry's off the court, there's a nice value here for Jimmy Butler to be able to go ahead and go over his number of 5.5 assists. I think it stands out. I think especially having the rest advantage to be able to take advantage of a tired Boston defense. This is a time where for somebody like Butler, I don't mind playing the over in a series full of unders, and you can get it at plus value at plus 110. This sets up awfully nice for Jimmy Butler to have one of his vintage Butler games where he goes for something along the lines of, 25, 6-7 rebounds and 7 assists. I think this is the type of Jimmy Butler game that you expect. A full-on distributor, fills up the box score in a wide variety of ways and takes advantage of Kyle Lowry not being on the court.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler. I like it. I like it a lot. And I pulled up while you were talking. The Heat, they shoot 36.9% from 3 at home, which is for home teams right around the middle of the pack for the postseason. 9th overall for home teams, shoot better at home. So they're not necessarily an elite 3-point shooting team. On the road, 26.7%. 15th. Only Utah shot worse on the road this postseason. So again, Miami seems to really play a lot better at home. They actually, again, this isn't like, I wouldn't say it's perfect because they did have maybe an easier road than others, but they did have the best net rating at home this postseason. So there's clearly some, though, correlation between this team plays much better in front of their home crowd, sleep in their beds, all that narrative stuff. But I like Miami to show up in game 1 and get off to a hot start. This is a well-coached team. Even if they're not as talented, they're pretty close to. I think the margin's pretty close between these teams.
All right. So we made it an effort when it came to where we wanted to go tonight versus the great BetSided Daily Betslip community. We almost convinced him, Reed. Turns out the guy who never hedges may have to hedge a little bit tonight because the results are in and the community has spoken loud and clear. They like Boston on the road at +2. The community has spoken. We'll go ahead and enter that bet.
He win by 1. I'll hit it both ways.
There you go. That's true. You get a nice little bump from that regard. So
thank you, community.
Yes, the community is always here to help us middle whenever we get the right opportunity. So the community bet goes with Celtics +2 in game 1. Wish you all the best of luck, and certainly I guess that applies to us as taking on that action as well. Reminder, if you haven't already, make sure you guys go to Twitter. Check out the BetSided PGA Championship giveaway opportunity to win $500. You literally just have to retweet, use a hashtag, and follow BetSided. Tell us who you think is going to win the PGA Championship. $500 on the line. Also, speaking of golf, it'll be myself and Ian McMillan on Daily Betslip tomorrow. Very excited to break down the PGA Championship with one Ian Mac bets. And plenty more content ahead that you can find over at fansided.com/betsided as well. And if you are watching on YouTube or you're watching on Fansided, please do go ahead, head on over to the YouTube channel, give us that thumbs up, and please do subscribe. We have daily content Monday through Sunday going over our best bets of the night. Daily Betslip Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And of course, Bet and Breakfast on the weekends, our weekend podcast at 11 a.m. Eastern. Reed, good luck with all of your bets tonight. I hope you stay undefeated in the world of Major League Baseball. To all of you watching as well, hope all of your bets hit tonight as well. For Reed, I'm Ben. Shout out to Joanne Stoner, our producer and director, for another job well done. We will talk to you again tomorrow on the Daily Betslip at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So long, everybody.